Okay, guys, welcome to Timpedia Book Review number 3, where this time I am going to go after Star Wars Crosscurrent, the first book to be released talking about Jaden Korr, the character who has only ever really been in the Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy game and was the main character of that game. But other than that, and a few brief cameos in the new Star Wars Fate of the Jedi series, or the books that have come out so far. We haven't seen anything of him. So the story of this book is that, just as a brief outline, Jaden is starting to. I don't want to say mess with the dark side, but he's sort of losing his way, and it sort of relates back to how in Jedi Academy, how they if you played that game, how there were all these little text boxes every now and then about how like Luke or Kyle would say how light or dark you were based on what your force powers were. And it sort of goes back to if you were neutral and I used lightning and grip, but I also used heal and speed and mind control, so I was sort of in the middle. And it sort of is like that situation again where he recognizes that he is not super good, but at the same time he's trying to be a good guy. So he sort of goes on this quest to find himself and learn more about himself, and truly try to center himself and figure out if he's a good guy or a bad guy, or what. Not really that, but who he is. He's trying to re-find himself. He feels lost. At the same time, about 4,000 years before this, during the time of Nagasato, one of the first real Sith Lord to fight the Republic, two Jedi are attacking an ore mining Sith ship that is gathering this ore that makes Darksiders really strong. It makes the dark side really powerful when you link with it. And one of the Jedi gets killed, and the other one is on the ship and escapes, but gets sucked into hyperspace with the big ship when they make a jump to escape from the Jedi, and they get sucked into the future at the same time as Jaden. And it's actually a really cool plot twist, and they really explain it well, and it's really cool that way. Things are like how they go to light speed without actually entering hyperspace, and blah, blah, blah. And it's really cool how they interwove these two stories. This story of the old ancient Sith and this old Jedi, and Jaden trying to find himself. And there's as sort of an offshoot of Jaden later on, no, let me rephrase that. There's a third party in this story. I think you pronounce it Anzat. They're like these vampire creatures in Star Wars who can suck people's brains out through their noses. It's kind of weird, but one of these is sort of a weird guy, and he's working for the one Sith who, if you've read the Legacy comic series that is still being released, that has to do a lot with Darth Krayt. And this Anzat works for them, and Krayt gets a vision that he shares with that Jaden also gets, and they both see this planet where they think something pretty big is going to happen. And so the one Sith order sends this Anzat to there to figure out what's going on, and Jaden gets the vision and also tries to get there, and he meets up with this smuggler and his friend, and I don't really want to get into it. I don't really want to spoil the story. But it turns out that there's another secret Imperial facility there that no one knew now. Blah, blah, blah. I'm getting too into it. But anyway, overall, the book. I liked it because it explores a character that I like. Jaden Korr is a really cool character, and it's been disappointing. Between reading the Fate of the Jedi series and reading this, and having played Jedi Academy, I had never seen him again. And when I saw him in Fate of the Jedi, I was like, wow, that's awesome. Jaden Korr. I can't believe he's still around. But then when he gets his own book, that's even better. And I think and there's a sequel to this book. They set it up rather well, and I had already known that going in. I had seen the announcements for it. So it's really... I love the fact that they're exploring this character more. Jaden Korr is a really interesting character that could really be turned into something very impressive. But the story is very interesting because it's dealing with time travel, which is something that Star Wars has shied away from. They've sort of explored the concept with Force, losing things to like slow down and things like that. But there's never been any real time travel. And it was kind of cool to see the old Jedi interacting with Jaden and all these things like that. Because obviously they were going to meet up. That's not really a spoiler. But it is really interesting to see how everything interacts between the old and the new. And it's kind of interesting to see everyone confused and like, oh my god, what's this old stuff? And it's pretty funny. But there are some negative things. Like there's a lot of unnecessary filler, I want to say. And the Ansat really was an unnecessary character who contributed little but took up a lot of reading space. He basically, I think his real purpose was just to sort of mention the one Sith at this point, because they've sort of been hinted at all over the place. They first came around in the Legacy of the Force series, or Legacy of the Jedi, I forget what it was called, but the last series before Fate of the Jedi. And they were sort of hinted at there, and they're sort of coming into play more, but we know that they don't come into play for about 100 years completely because of the Legacy comics. But he could have been cut out. It was a lot of filler with him. But Jaden is built upon, which is awesome. And the new characters they run into at the end seem sort of unnecessary. Like they're not unnecessary, I don't want to say that, but they just set up the sequel, and it feels like unfinished, as if they could have finished this book with 50 more pages but decided to turn it into a sequel. But anyway, overall, I would rank this book as a borrow it. It's good for a read once. I will probably pick it up again sometime just to read about Jaden and before the sequel comes out. But for most people, especially non-Star Wars fans who just want a good book, it's definitely a borrow. It was a nice read once, and I think it was worth reading that one time, especially if you were a fan of the Jedi Academy game. And if you haven't read the Star Wars books, this is a great book to read then, because Jaden is in it, and you know who Jaden is if you've just played that game. So anyway, that's my review of Star Wars Crosscurrent, the first in a hopefully long line of Jaden Core books. I will see you guys around.